Got it. So I think Debbie is supposed to be next since he's not here. Debbie, if you want to introduce yourself and just give us an understanding, you know.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Yes? Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear
Okay.
you.
Okay, so my name is Debbie Kunzelman, and I am running for the office of Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. And the Supreme Court is the highest court in our Commonwealth. And they are charged with hearing the most significant and important cases that come before the courts. For example, they decide cases of first impression when deciding how a statute is to be interpreted. They also decide matters of constitutional law and whether a statute that is passed by the legislature passes constitutional muster. In other words, is it compliant with the Constitution? Because if not, then it's our job as judges to strike down that statute. And that is the role of our Pennsylvania Supreme Court in terms of making decisions. The Supreme Court is also charged with the administrative function of overseeing all of the various courts of the state. And there are 4 levels of courts, as you're going to learn here tonight, the Supreme Court being at the top. And then there are 2 sister courts at the appellate level. One is the Superior Court. That's the court I'm currently serving on, and I've been there for the last 6 years, decided over 3,000 appeals. The other sister court is the Commonwealth Court, and you'll hear from candidates for both of those courts as well. Below the courts of appeal are the trial courts, and the trial courts are the courts that you see on television every day with the judge and the jury making the decisions in real time. I served in that capacity for 12 years on the Court of Common Pleas in Beaver County. And there I was in charge of handling all of the family law cases. So divorce support, child custody, protection from abuse, distribution of marital assets. Those are family law cases. Juvenile cases, including juvenile dependency and juvenile delinquency. Dependency is when you have parental abuse or neglect, and delinquency is kids that commit crimes. And then also criminal jury trials and civil jury trials. And civil is everything not criminal. So that involves property disputes, medical malpractice, car accidents, slip and falls, contract actions, employment disputes, and any kind of administrative appeals from your local municipalities like zoning and ordinance things.
Context there we do not have.
So I'm the only candidate that has 17 years of judicial experience, both 12 years at the trial court and 6 years on the appeals court. And I have administrative experience too, because I was in charge of, as I said, the family law cases, the juvenile cases, and all of the civil cases. I also did a lot with our rules committee. And so I believe that my experience as a judge and as an administrator have best suited me and prepared me to take this next step to serve as your next Supreme Court Justice. I'm an honors graduate from Penn State University and the University of Notre Dame Law School, and I've been highly recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar Association for a position as a Supreme Court Justice. When we talk about some things that might be of importance to you as in the Latino community, I believe, we need to make sure that people who come into our court system who aren't familiar with the process and who maybe have English as a second language, we need to make sure that those folks are getting the appropriate interpreter services that they may need when coming before our court system. And, I had to do this when I was at the trial court, making sure that we had interpreters that were there. And I can tell you our Supreme Court in 2020 ruled that not having an interpreter at every critical stage of the proceeding was ineffectiveness of counsel per se, and a person should get a new trial. That's the kinds of decisions that the Supreme Court is going to be making. Verifying and making sure that due process is served at every level in our judiciary system. And so, again, those are really important things that the Supreme Court does and that I will be looking for if I'm elected as your next Supreme Court Justice. We want to also make sure that people are treated fairly in terms of whether they can afford legal representation. And I decided a case here on the Superior Court involving a gentleman who had failed to pay his costs and fines. And he was brought up before the court with 53 other total strangers who had different types of cases. And all 53 of them were sentenced en masse without individually being asked why they were in contempt or why they had failed to pay their costs and fines, and to ascertain whether they in fact even had the money to pay those costs and fines. And they weren't even given an opportunity to speak with a lawyer. And I reversed that trial court, sent it back down and said, no, every time somebody comes before the court, they need to be given a lawyer and given the opportunity to be heard and have a hearing and assessed individually to make sure that their rights are being protected. So that's a very important function as a judge. And I'm very proud of that case. So when you're electing your next Supreme Court justice, I like to tell people this: we'll be the first race on your ballot, the Supreme Court. And remember, Judge Debbie, she's ready. So thank you, Janet.
We can't hear you.
You're on mute.
Of course I am. Thank you so much. I just want to really quick ask Pastor Cortez if he has one question for the judge. Si acaso tiene una pregunta para la que está hablando ahora, que ella es jueza, Pastor Cortés.
No, ahora no. No.
Okay.
Entendí muy bien lo que ella habló. Gracias.
Okay. Gracias. Thank you, Debbie, so much for your time. We will move forward to our next contestant. And that would be Jill Beck.
Hi, is it our turn?
Go ahead, it's Jill's next turn.
Yeah, that's okay. If it's okay, Gina, we're gonna go together. She picked me up off the street. So.
That's fine.
Jill's in Philly, and we're both endorsed for Superior Court.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Jill Beck.
Tamika Lane.
We're both running for the 2 seats that are on the Superior Court. For those of you who don't know, the Superior Court, it's an appellate court that hears appeals of criminal, civil, family, juvenile, and orphans court cases. Those are all individual rights cases in all areas where both Tamika and I have a lot of experience. I have practiced in those areas and in the Superior Court itself, and worked on the Superior Court for 10 years and have drafted those decisions.
Hi, as you know, I was elected a decade ago to the Court of Common Pleas, hearing very tough cases like human trafficking, sexual assaults, you name it, I've heard it. But what Jill and I have in common is that we've dedicated our life to service and helping others. We've authored so many opinions that we just stopped counting. And it's important because the Superior Court is an error-correcting court in which you have to write an opinion, and from that, the judge makes a decision after discussing with his or her colleagues. So experience matters.
We both have a dedication to underserved communities and to people in need. We are ready to approach this job with empathy.
Oh, you have a question for us?
No, I had to mute him. Go ahead.
Oh.
Janet, you're lethal with that mute button. We will approach this job with a level of empathy. We have both, in addition to being endorsed by both the State Democratic Party and the Democratic Latino Caucus, we've both been highly recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar Association, who did an extremely rigorous background check and questioning sessions. We are ready to go on day one for this job.
Day one.
We are ready. So we appreciate you guys having us. We thank you so much for holding this forum. Janet, this is fantastic. And we're either one of us or both of us, we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
¿Tiene alguna pregunta los que están participando? ¿Todo bien? Okay, for the next person.
All right, well, thank you so much. We appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you. Judge Tamika. Go ahead and speak your mind.
Well, good evening, members of the Latino Caucus. My name is Brian Neff, and I am from Allegheny County. I'm running for the open seat on the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania. I start this by saying I'm like all of you. I'm a committee person from Allegheny County, Mount Lebanon, and I know the hard work that goes into getting Democrats elected. I served in Mount Lebanon for many years on the committee, and I ran in the primary in 2021, didn't get it, but as soon as I lost that race, I got right back up and started helping all of the statewide candidates in Allegheny County with fundraising, getting to events, canvassing and getting out the vote. It was so important. And I did the same thing in 2022 for many candidates for state rep and for Congress, not only in Allegheny County, but all across the state. And I've spent the last 2 years really going across the state to meet as many people as I can to develop the networks that you need in order to win. And I think I've been very successful at that. I'm excited about the prospect of traveling even further. I've been practicing in Allegheny County for 33 years now. It doesn't seem like it's been 33 years, but I started clerking for a judge on the Superior Court of Pennsylvania, where I drafted hundreds of decisions for my judge and learned the fine qualities of judicial review, as well as judicial temperament, which are so necessary for the bench. And my private practice really kind of is a variety of cases. I have represented plaintiffs in personal injury matters. I've represented families that are seeking insurance proceeds from insurance companies that refuse to pay them. And I've represented defendants both civilly and criminally. And I've represented very large commercial entities in high stakes commercial litigation. I practiced in 30 counties across Pennsylvania, and I practiced in all of the appellate courts, including the Commonwealth Court, the court to which I'm seeking election. And in that court, I've handled matters such as insurance liquidations. I've represented government agencies with sovereign immunity issues, and I've represented individuals and entities in land use disputes and zoning issues, all of which go to the Commonwealth Court. But just as important as my daily practice has been, so have been the things that I've done in the community as well. I've been a leader in the Bar Association, both in Allegheny County and Pennsylvania for many years. I was president of the Allegheny County Bar Association in 2018. But during my longstanding history with those organizations, I've championed issues for women, for people of color, and for members of the LGBTQ plus community. And I've been a staunch advocate for access to justice, meaning finding help for those individuals who can't afford legal services but need help. And I've done that in a couple of ways. First, representing individuals pro bono in a number of matters, putting together pro bono programs for attorneys in Allegheny County. And I've served on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court's board dealing with legal aid programs across the state. And one of the neat things that we did when I was on that board we developed what's called the Loan Repayment Assistance Program. And that's a program that pays the student loans of attorneys that are working for legal aid agencies in Pennsylvania. And the best part about it is it's paid exclusively by out-of-state attorneys that want to practice in Pennsylvania on a case-by-case basis. So those funds are aggregated and then go to pay the student loans of attorneys that are working for legal aid programs. It's a win-win. There's no tax dollars involved, and the legal aid agencies get talented attorneys they couldn't otherwise attract because of their student loan debt. So I've been really proud of that program. Why the Commonwealth Court? This is a hot button court that's been in the news a lot over the last 5 years. This is the court that deals with voting rights issues and gave Trump 2 wins in 2020, one of which, had the Pennsylvania Supreme Court not come in and reverse that decision, would have thrown out thousands of mail-in ballots. And this is also a court that's very important to labor, and it handles environmental issues, and it handles issues related to professional licensures. Anything where government touches on the lives of the people, that's where this court gets involved. And I'm running to protect your rights, whether it's the right to vote, whether it's the right to reproductive health choices, whether it's the right to marry whom you choose, whether it's the right to organize, whether it's the right to a livable environment, whether it's the right to a decent education. All issues that go before this court. And if the Dobbs decision out of the United States Supreme Court means anything, these issues, more and more of these issues are coming back to the states, and they're going to land in the Commonwealth Court as a matter of first resort. And because the Pennsylvania Supreme Court doesn't take all cases, it may be the court of last resort as well. And that's the reason I'm running. I want to make an impact on these issues. So I thank you so much for having me here. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.